Perhaps this isn't who you are. Maybe that's just who you needed to become in order to survive. Have you ever stopped to think about this? That some of the things you most often call your way of being may not have been innate. They may have been built, brick by brick, silently, when you were still too young to understand what was happening. Today I'm going to talk about 7 things that seem like personality traits, but which most of the time are responses you created to protect yourself. And I bet at least one of them will make you pause the video for a second to process it. If you've just arrived at this channel for the first time, subscribe. This is the kind of content you won't want to miss when you need it. And you will need it. We grow up hearing that personality is something you're born with, that you're shy by nature, closed off by nature, independent by nature, difficult by nature, and you believed it because it was easier than the other explanation. The other explanation hurts more because it says you weren't born this way, you became this way, in response to an environment that wasn't safe enough for you to be different. A child doesn't choose to be closed off. They learn that opening up is dangerous. A child doesn't choose to be hyper-independent. They learn that dependence is disappointing. A child doesn't choose to be anxious. They learn that anything can change without warning, and that it's best to always be prepared for the worst. These responses were intelligent. They were necessary. They were adaptations. The problem is that the environment has changed. You've grown up, but the answers remain. And today they seem like personality, when in reality they are scars functioning as a shield, and you've spent your whole life trying to change who you are, when all you needed was to understand where you came from. The feeling of refusing help even when you're at your limit, because accepting it seems like weakness or worse, like being in debt. You call that independence, and some of it is real, yes. You are capable, you are resilient, you've learned to fend for yourself. But there's a layer beneath that that isn't pride, it's fear in different clothes. At some point, even as a child, asking for help didn't work. Maybe no one was available. Maybe when you did, the response was impatience or indifference or simply silence. And a child who learns that dependence hurts develops a very simple internal rule. If I don't need anyone, no one can let me down. That rule protected you back then, but today it isolates you. It tires you. It makes you carry a burden that didn't need to be yours alone. You are not strong because you do everything alone. You are strong despite how much you carry without asking for help. There is a difference, and it matters. And when someone loves you unconditionally, for no apparent reason, without you having done anything special, you can't truly believe it. You wait for the moment when that person will realize you're not worth that much after all. This isn't a lack of self-esteem. It's an equation you learned when you were young. If the love you received in childhood was conditional, if it only came when you behaved, when you got good grades, when you didn't cause trouble, when you were the easy child, you learned that love is something you earn, not something you receive simply by existing. And then you entered adulthood trying to be good enough to be loved, working towards it, shaping yourself for it. But no achievement will be enough as long as you still believe you need to earn what should be free. You don't need to earn love you never did. You wait for the but that never comes. Or worse, you wonder what this person wants from you. It's not ingratitude, it's just that your internal system doesn't know what to do with affection that comes freely. When you grew up in an environment where attention was rare, unpredictable, or always came with some kind of obligation, your brain learned to distrust kindness, because kindness, in your experience, almost always had a deadline or a price. So today, when someone treats you truly well, a part of you doesn't relax. A part of you stays on guard, waiting for the moment when that will be taken away. You're not closed off. You're someone who's learned that opening up hurts. And that's completely different. Receiving affection is also a skill, and you can learn it again. The friendship is becoming too close. And then, without being able to explain it properly, you start to pull back, respond less, create distance, show up less, find reasons not to delve deeper. And when the other person seems strange, you don't quite know what to say, because you yourself don't fully understand what happened, but deep down there is a logic to it, an ancient logic. If I get attached, I'll suffer when it's gone, and it will be gone. It always will be. This certainty didn't come from nowhere. It came from real experiences, from someone who disappeared, from affection that was withdrawn without explanation, from bonds that broke too soon, in ways a child can't process. And then you learned to leave first, not to get too close, to control the pain by being the first to create distance. The problem is that this strategy doesn't protect you from suffering. It only guarantees that you'll suffer alone, and that the people who could stay for will leave thinking you didn't want them. You're not afraid of relationships, you're afraid of caring and losing again, and that makes perfect sense. I know what a part of you might be thinking right now. But everyone had a difficult childhood. That's no excuse for anything. And you're right, it's not an excuse. But it's about context. And without context, you spend your whole life blaming yourself for patterns that started long before you were old enough to choose to react differently. No one is saying you have no responsibility for who you are today. You do. But responsibility without understanding becomes just another way to punish yourself. Understanding where you come from doesn't bind you to the past. It frees you from it. Because when you know what you're carrying, you can for the first time choose to land. And the cruelest part is that sometimes you feel both on the same day. In the morning you hold back so as not to scare people. At night you wonder why nobody really sees you. This wasn't something you were born with. This was taught to you. It may have been a family where your emotions were too intense to be received, where you heard stop being dramatic when you were genuinely suffering, where showing emotion was inconvenient, where you learned to lower your own volume so as not to bother others. Or it could have been the opposite, an environment where you were invisible, where your achievements weren't celebrated, where you existed but weren't truly seen. In both cases, the message that remained was the same. You, the way you are, don't quite fit in, and then you spent years trying to fit in, to be less, to be more, to be different, anything but exactly who you are. But the problem was never your size. It was the space they gave you. You're not great, you've just never been in the right place. Or introversion, or caution. But there are nights when you know it's something else. It's the fear of misrepresenting who you are in front of others. When you grew up in an environment where being spontaneous had consequences, where the atmosphere changed quickly, where a wrong word led to punishment, rejection, or silence, you learned to monitor yourself before acting, to calculate the impact of each gesture before making it. It was necessary. It was smart. It was the way you found to stay safe. But today that filter doesn't switch off. Even when you're with safe people, even when there's no real danger, your system still acts as if any misstep could cost you dearly. And then you spend your whole life editing yourself before you even exist. The tiredness you feel isn't from doing, it's from holding back. You can be spontaneous. The danger your body still senses is no longer there. Number 7. You help everyone else, but you don't let anyone help you. You're the first to show up when someone needs you. You're there for them. You listen. You solve problems. You're truly there, not out of obligation. But when the situation reverses, you disappear. You say you're fine when you're not. You downplay your feelings so you don't seem weak. You prefer to solve problems alone rather than explain what you're going through. And when someone insists on helping, you thank them with a smile and change the subject. It's not because you don't trust people. It's because you learned very early on that your needs were a burden. It may have been explicit. Someone who said in words that you were difficult, demanding, too complicated. It may have been implicit, an environment where the adults already had so many problems of their own that you learned not to add yours. One way or another, you've internalized an idea that was never true. That caring is your role, and being cared for is a privilege you don't deserve. So you've become an expert at giving and illiterate at receiving. But there's a detail no one told you. When you never let anyone help you, you also never let anyone truly know you. You show the caring side of yourself. You hide the side that needs help. And then you wonder why you feel lonely even when surrounded by people. Letting someone help you is not weakness. It's the bravest thing you can do. This is not weakness. This is not a defect. It was an adaptation. And the difference between the two changes everything. Because you carry a flaw with shame. Adaptation, with time and care, you can begin to let go of. You don't need to destroy yourself to rebuild yourself. You don't need to erase who you were to become who you want to be. You just need to stop fighting against who you needed to be. Comment and like call to action. Middle end you, direct tone, almost whispered. If any of these 7 points described something you always thought was just your personality, comment below which one it was. The number alone is enough. You'll see that you're not alone, and sometimes that alone makes a difference. If this video resonated with you, please leave a like. Not because of the algorithm, but because it helps this content reach more people who are silently processing the same things. It's about something most people never connect with: childhood, but that controls almost everything in adult life. It will be worth every minute. See you there.